Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation.
Today we're covering the first season of the Chainsaw Man anime.
And this anime not only has a huge following amongst anime fans, but it also has Ryan Colt Levy's biggest lead role to date, so of course we had to cover it.
Yes. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, click the notification buttons, and future podcasts and one of Paws videos.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us today.
Mm-hmm.
And we are currently reading the manga.
Yes.
And I'm really loving the manga.
Yes.
And we started watching the anime and got away from it doing other things, but we had to get back to it, and we were going, after we started watching, why didn't we finish this sooner?
Right. Because we were actually watching it weekly with everybody else, whether it be with the English dub or in Japanese. We rewatched a couple episodes to hear all the English cast.
Yes.
And then it's after I think after the third or the fourth episode, we ended up stopping to do other things and just never went back until now. So, hey, better late than never.
Yes.
And there most likely will be a season 2.
Oh, it's already been announced.
Right, season 2. And I think this is some live action, so you might as well cover it.
And the season 1 box set has just been released days before we recorded this.
Yes. So now you get to read the entire collection of the manga.
Absolutely. So if you're not familiar with Chainsaw Man, it's an action, comedy, horror, dark fantasy anime.
Some everything.
Based on the manga written and illustrated by Tatsuki Fujimoto. And the first arc was serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump. And then the chapters were collected into the 15-volume manga we are currently reading.
Yes.
The anime has 12 episodes.
Right, so for the first season.
And they're not for the meek.
No, they are really not, because they show quite a bit in here, and they have more leeway in how much blood they show, because there's quite a bit of it, and they actually allowed to say stronger cursing in here. They drop the F-bombs, S-bombs, words you hear in regular anime, and that might be why they put it on Crunchyroll since you're streaming it, because none of this would really be allowed on Toonami.
It'd be allowed on Netflix.
Right, that's about it, Crunchyroll or Netflix.
So, this is definitely a very different anime in terms of the concept and the synopsis itself, because it takes place in an AU where it's 1997 and it's an alternate timeline. The Soviet Union still exists, and then other events that we know about have been erased from history. And they live in an environment where when a devil's killed on Earth, it reappears in hell, and if it's killed in hell, it reincarnates in a new body on Earth. So
that's quite a different system.
Definitely. So, also in this world, devils are born from human fears.
Right, so it's kind of like with JJK with the curses.
Right. And we meet the devil hunters after meeting Denji in the first episode. So we're going to start with that first episode because that's a really tough episode.
The very first one, yeah.
We meet Denji, unfortunately, having been put in a position by his dad, trying to pay back a debt that's not even his. He's 16, he's not even an adult. And unfortunately, you see he's living this really harsh life. He has no friends. He's barely eating. He has no place to live.
Right.
And he ends up friends with Pochita, a cute little devil.
Yes, the chainsaw one, yes.
Yes, and you've seen lots of pictures, so you know what he looks like. And he was his only friend. And he met him because he saw he was hurt, and he aided him, and then he became his pet.
Right. And they are pretty harsh in just about almost every aspect of this story. I mean, there is no, like one character that is, you know, super, super kind, or the lighthearted one. There isn't a really character like that. You got some that are less abrasive than others, but this is one of the few, or probably first anime we've seen where everybody here has got a problem. Everyone here's got jaded, or they're abrasive, or they got a mean streak, or something's really, really off with them. So a lot of those character tropes that you get in most other anime or high comedy, they are not in here. Everyone's got a chip on their shoulder about something. It's like, I guess this is realistic.
Well, in this universe, yes. And then in that first episode, we see him working as a devil hunter, trying to repay this loan, and constantly he's getting ripped off, being told that what he's done, he's got to repay all these other things. And then the person who hired him, who's Yakuza, betrays him, and is upset because he does a good job, and decide that they want to take him out.
Yeah.
And they take him out.
Yeah, and the stuff that they say to him, it's like, he has literally nothing, and you're still treating him like he deserves less than that.
Well, they're pretty stupid because they take him out for a contract with a zombie devil, and they're turned to zombies.
It's
so
like,
you didn't care about them in the first place, now you really don't.
Right.
And then Pochita actually saves Denji. He ends up coming back as the main character, Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
And he takes all of them out, and rightly so.
So you didn't feel bad. You didn't feel bad.
No.
It's like, yeah, they deserve this.
And so that pretty much sums up the first episode. I think it's the most powerful episode in the anime.
Yeah.
Yes, you've got other great episodes, and you've got great ones that actually take place the last two episodes, 11 and 12.
Right.
But the first one is most powerful because, one, we meet Denji, voiced by Ryan Colt Levy, who does an excellent voice.
Yes.
Of making you care about Denji and what's happening to him. And his voice is so layered. He expresses all these emotions and different feelings in different situations. And literally, after you start watching the first episode and you go to the second episode and you're watching dub, you forget it's him. At first you go, oh, it's Ryan Colt Levy, yay!
Right.
And after you get into it, you're like, who? You forget because he portrays the role so well.
Right.
It's done so well. You become totally engrossed in the anime itself, the other voice actors, but specifically in this character's journey, which is a wild one.
Right. And one of the biggest things that was a draw for people when it first came out was that his goals in life at the beginning, he really didn't have much. He just wanted to live a good life, really a normal life, like a human being. That's pretty much what he wanted in the beginning.
And he wanted to be able to eat,
right?
And have a bed to sleep on.
That's it. That was his life goal. Was
and
just
touch boobs.
Right, right. And what was funny when it got to that point, it was like, you have all these anime characters. You got one that wants to be world's greatest hero, wants to be king of the pirates, wants to save as many lives as possible. Then you get here, he wants boobs. It's like, yeah, that's like this is the greatest conviction of all time. And then as it goes on, it keeps changing because he kind of keeps accomplishing stuff a few episodes at a time. He's like, oh, now you gotta think of something else he wants.
Well, he didn't have a lot of big aspirations, but they were honest and good ones.
Right.
That were taken away from him by the situation he was put in.
Right.
So, when someone comes along, Makima, and tells him, you do this, and you have clean clothes, a bed to sleep in, and food to eat, and she's pretty, well,
yeah, that sold the deal.
And that's when he started having more goals, including the boobs thing.
Right.
And it's funny, it's not like when you watch another anime and you go, okay, this is just, they shouldn't do this, and how dare they? And every time you hear him say it or you realize that's his goal, you're laughing and you're hoping he actually achieves it. When the other anime is off-putting, but in here it's not. In the game, you gotta attribute to the writing and to the performance, where you hoping this 16-year-old gets to touch boobs.
Right. It's like, yeah, after you see what he's been through, it's like, at least give him one pleasure. He deserves at least that much. So yeah, you're not looking at him as he's a perv or anything, Mineta. Right. I mean, he is sort of one, but it's like, hey, he's new to it. He wants some pleasure out of something. Exactly. He has had nothing for 16 years to enjoy or have a hobby or do anything. So you at least understand why he wants to do that here.
And you'd expect him to sound licentious, but he doesn't.
He's just honest. He's like, he just wants to do that. That's it.
And it comes across, you're like, okay, he's going to get his wish. Okay, he's going to get his wish.
That's all he wants.
And he actually does. And that marks for one of the funniest scenes in this entire anime. It's absolutely hilarious. And the looks that they animate on his face and the way that Ryan Coates performs it, you're just laughing hysterically. Like, okay, let's rewind that one more time.
Yeah, right.
It's just brilliant. It's brilliantly written. And we can't wait to share with you our review on the manga as well, because the manga is stellar. 2 volumes in, you're hooked.
Yeah.
And I'm really loving the manga. I didn't expect to love it as much as I do. I know on Brian's X channel, formerly known as Twitter, showed his collection and talked about how he had read it prior to even obtaining the role.
Right.
And recommending that people read it. And it was one of his favorites. It is one of his favorites, I should say.
Yes.
And finally, we got some volumes and we're like, whoa.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Excellent. This is great.
Yes, it's one of the craziest mangas we've read and one of the craziest animes we've seen. And they really did their best to capture the tone of the manga, which, if you think about it, it's kind of different because you're seeing a lot of this stuff animated and they move so fluidly. But you have in here as well, like you said, all the facial expressions, the inflections in their voices and everything. It's different from reading from the manga, but they adapt as much as possible, as close as possible, as you would with a lot of anime that has a really passionate fan base. And they did a good job on delivering that and making this just as entertaining, if not more entertaining, than reading the manga.
Absolutely. So, we've talked a lot about Ryan, and rightly so. Let's talk about a few of the other characters. There is Makima, who we mentioned already, so we'll go ahead and talk about her. And she is the head of the Public Safety Division. We forgot to mention that that's what they call the people who are the devil hunters.
Right.
And she is very mysterious. And at first she kind of seems like she's just normal, but she's got a lot of clout.
Yeah.
And you can tell she likes Denji. And it's not just because of what he can do, which is really nice. He finally has the first person he's met who actually likes him.
Right.
For him. And later on you get further into the anime and she's just not as normal as she appears.
Right. It's like,
she's pretty badass. She's pretty powerful. And we don't know yet why, because we haven't gotten that far in the manga.
Yes, and no spoilers.
And nothing in the anime yet reveals where she got this power from and how. So it's going to be interesting to see in season 2 how it's animated, because we will have already read the manga.
Yeah.
And know the answer. And she's voiced by Suzy Young. And then you have Aki, I'm sorry. Aki, who became really popular online because he's being compared to Megami in JJK.
Right, because they have similar power, similar looks, similar voices. Almost feels like another version of him. Even down to having the wolf demon power thing. And then he doesn't use as much in here, but it's still like eerily similar. And you kind of think like he might have been, our writer might have been inspired by JJK to write some of these characters. Because that's one thing we see a lot, is that this animes in compared to saying it's a more brutal version of JJK and shows a lot more graphicness, has more swearing. It's like a more, harder version of that anime.
And Makima has him be the one to train Denji and work with him as a partner. And of course, true to partner buddy films, he doesn't like it. He doesn't want to train him. He's close to Denji's age.
Yeah.
And has his little ponytail. He's voiced by Brian Bagas. And you find out he's a really honest person. He believes in justice. And at one point in the anime, they say that people who aren't crazy don't survive long.
Right.
And almost everyone he's worked with or been on assignment with has been taken out.
Right.
And you're finding it to be true. And at some point in season 1, he ends up snapping. So he may last longer than the time he's been given. We don't want to spoil too much, but he's on limited time. But now that he's crazy, maybe he'll have his time extended. I don't know.
Right.
But he is a character that you actually like.
True.
Then you have Himeno, who's Aki's first partner. She's a female with an eye patch. And the first thing you think is Hanji when you hear her.
Right.
And see her. And I forgot to tell you that Aki is voiced, I did say Brian Bagas. And Himeno is voiced by Minami Suki. Not familiar with her. And she is, again, reminds you of Hanji when you hear her and see her. She seems really nice. She seems pretty cool. She really loves being partners with Aki. He knows about her. She knows about him. And unfortunately, she doesn't last long.
Yeah, unfortunately. And it's weird because you end up actually liking her after a couple episodes she's introduced in. So she ended up being like some of these other characters where you grow attached to them in a short amount of time and then they're taken out in a short amount of time.
And she ends up crushing on him, and you can tell when you get to the episodes, a few episodes before she's taken out. And then Denji gets his first kiss ever from her
and
as a 16-year-old.
Oh.
And it's one of those experiences that not only he will not forget, but you as the viewer will not forget either.
Right.
And that's all we'll say. We won't spoil it.
Right.
And then you've got some other characters that are in here as well as...
like Power.
Yes. Devil. Oh, yes. We got to talk about her. How can I forget that? Yes. Because all I thought about when I first heard this character's name was Mordecai and him saying in regular show, "Oh, I've always wanted to date a girl named The Power."
And so, oh, here's your girl.
Yes. And I even did a post with it, and only the people who watch a regular show got it.
Right.
And she's also a really popular character online. She's a fiend with pink horns, and she's crazy as hell. There's no other way to put it. She's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And a lot of times she's funny. You don't expect her to be funny.
Right.
But she is.
Especially the way she talks all the time. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? And one thing you don't expect is that the way they regard fiends is that they're just as dangerous and untrustworthy as devils. And every now and then they have them work for them. Even though they know they'll probably be taken out at some point, they are useful for some time. And for her, you find out she joined because she really wanted to lure Denji somewhere. And it's because she was trying to get her cat back.
Meowie.
And what actually made her character interesting, you see the backstory, is like she kind of just fed off like a vampire off of any animal. And then the little cat came and it looked really sick and weak. And she said, okay, she's going to feed it so it can get big and then she's going to eat it. And then it got big and she didn't eat it. And she ends up keeping it.
Yes. She's like the fiendish version of Luffy. All the meat eating. When we say meat eating, any meat, even zombie meat, she doesn't care.
Everybody says it's all meat. All meat's to her.
And Power's voiced by Sarah Wiedenheft. She's done a few roles. And she's fantastic. Her voicing this character is I don't think it could have chosen anyone to do it as well. She comes across as crazy and wily and smart aleckly. She has some of the best lines in here, the crap that she says.
Right.
And she and Denji now have this love-hate relationship. And they are, I don't know if she was younger when she became a fiend or how that works, because we haven't gotten in there. Yeah. But she acts like she's as young as Denji.
Right.
And I think that's why they get along to some extent.
Right.
And they always have these challenges, and they always say crazy crap to each other. And they've also been assigned to work together, like he and Aki. And we also learned that they use some fiends and devils within the public safety to help them do their job.
Right. So, yeah, so much happens in this anime, it's impossible to cover all of it, especially since we don't want to give out spoilers for ones who are interested and haven't seen it yet. Absolutely. But, as you said, both the manga and the anime are crazy, and they're excellent, and can be pretty shocking for a lot of their scenes and episodes. But, once you get past that, you see how well it's written, and underneath all of the crazy humor, the crazy horror, the stabby and all that in there really is a story. Just if you're a little more sensitive, that's a heads up. But like the biggest thing is there are a lot of that in most of the episodes of the anime. So if you're a little sensitive, I want to look away from the screen just for a little bit if you don't like things like that. We understand.
Absolutely. There's so many reasons, as you mentioned, to watch it. But the number one reason is Ryan Colt-Levy's performance.
Right.
He is spectacular. And we're so happy that he's not only gotten this role, but we're so excited to see what we get in season 2 as well.
Right.
So if you've watched Chainsaw Man, let us know what you think in the comments below. We know you love it. Did you watch it when it first came out? Have you read the manga? Let us know. We can't wait to hear what you think. And if you haven't seen it, it's available on Crunchyroll. All 12 seasons are complete. Season 2 will be on its way sometime. Go on there and watch it. Watch it dubbed. I'm sorry. Even if you love sub, don't watch it sub. There's nothing wrong with it.
It's a lot going on,
but you're not going to get the experience you get listening to it dubbed. It's just different. We watched, as we mentioned, the first few episodes subbed, went back and watched the sub dub. And it's just a huge difference in enjoyment and in what you get from it.
Right.
Watch it dubbed. Do yourself a favor. Start with it dubbed.
Yes. And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates to weekly videos, favorite anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely. And be sure to check out Ryan Colt-Levy's channel on X, formerly known as Twitter.
Right.
He is fantastic. He shares so much of what he does, his roles, his con appearances, and he's very uplifting, giving lots of positive messages and encouragement, and sharing his life. Definitely go and follow him. You won't be disappointed.
Right.
He's a sweetheart, and we're so happy for him.
Totally.
So thank you for joining us and for checking out this podcast. We really appreciate you. If you want us to cover something else for you, whether it's anime or Western animation, let us know in the comments below.
Yes. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ask Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.